Now to that breaking news, giving you a live picture from the White House where the flag is flying at half-staff to honor the death of a president. George Herbert Walker Bush spent decades in politics, serving in a number of roles. Chris Martinez shows us the path that led him to becoming our nation's 41st Commander-in-Chief.
I, George Herbert Walker Bush, do solemnly swear.
When George Herbert Walker Bush took the oath of office in 1989, he already had an impressive legacy. World War II hero, Texas oilman, director of the CIA, and vice president. Politics would dominate his life. Bush was born in 1924 in Milton, Massachusetts. On his 18th birthday, he enlisted in the Navy, becoming the youngest fighter pilot in World War II. During an air raid in the Pacific, he was shot down, a rescue famously captured on film.
I knew that if something didn't pick me up, I would be captured.
Shortly after returning from the war, he married Barbara Pierce. They would have 6 children and 17 grandchildren.
I think he's the wisest, smartest, most decent, caring person I know.
Bush studied at Yale University. He graduated Phi Beta Kappa in just 2.5 years, but he left New England to make it on his own. He carved out his fortune in the wildcat oil fields of Texas.
What a day!
In the 60s, Bush turned to politics. He was elected to Congress in 1966 and became a power player in the Republican Party.
Leaving the door open.
In 1980, he ran unsuccessfully against Ronald Reagan for the GOP nomination, then agreed to be Reagan's running mate. He was Reagan's vice president for 8 years before becoming the 41st president of the United States.
I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
During his one term in the White House, Bush played a key role in the reunification of Germany. He also took on Saddam Hussein for invading Kuwait, launching Operation Desert Storm, the first Gulf War.
A new world order can emerge, a new era.
Bush formed a coalition of 30 nations to liberate Kuwait in just 6 weeks, but he was criticized for not removing Iraq's defiant leader. After the war, the economy slowed down.
Read my lips. No new taxes.
Bush was forced to break that campaign promise and raised taxes. As the economy continued to sink, so did his approval ratings. And in 1992, he lost the election to Bill Clinton. In later years, the former rivals raised millions for victims of the tsunami in Southeast Asia and Hurricane Katrina. Bush remained active during retirement. He saw his oldest son become president, and another son, Jeb, served 2 terms as Florida's governor. He even went skydiving to celebrate his 80th, 85th, and 90th birthdays.
Can't play golf anymore, but I still can jump out of a plane.
But in his final years, Bush's health deteriorated, and he developed a form of Parkinson's that made it difficult to walk. He used a wheelchair during a 2011 visit to the White House when President Obama awarded him with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. In 2018, Bush was at his wife's side holding her hand when she passed at their Houston home. He called her the most beloved woman in the world, his devotion to her to the end, never failing. Chris Martinez, CBS News.
You just heard Chris talk about his wife, and Bush's death actually comes just 8 months after the passing of First Lady Barbara Bush. And as you'd imagine, the former president's family is feeling this loss harder than anyone else. His son, fellow former President George W. Bush, released a statement overnight. In it, he said, quote, "George H.W. Bush was a man of the highest character and the best dad a son or daughter could ask for. The entire Bush family is deeply grateful for 41's life and love, for the compassion of those who have cared and prayed for Dad, and for the condolences of our friends and fellow citizens."